This segment of Naperville Sports Weekly is brought to you in part by the Naperville Sun.
Well, Naperville Central football coach Mike Stine, it's been an exciting fall season for Red Hawk fans. Your football team definitely a part of it as we set up for this quarterfinal matchup here later in the week. What's kind of clicking for you guys these last couple weeks?
You know, I mean, right now, our defense has been very strong all year, and that's the strength of our team is our defense. Our offense has been able to, our strength of our offense has been running the ball. I think the last 2 or 3 weeks we've been able to mix in some play-action passing, and, we've just been playing very well in all 3 phases of the game.
And 4-5 last year, you guys missed the playoffs for the first time in a while. How much did that kind of maybe put a bitter taste in the mouth of some of these seniors for coming back this year and being able to come back and be successful like they have?
Yeah, I mean, that's been a big driving force. When we didn't make this, a year ago, 3 weeks, we met with the seniors and I were juniors at that time and said, how do you want to be remembered? You want to be remembered as a class that gets this thing back rolling or a class that never played a playoff football game. And, this class really bought into that, and that's really been the driving force. They were the hardest working team we've had in a long time in the off season, and it's paying off right now.
A big point of pride that goes into that, I imagine, for some of those guys, some of these guys hoping to make a name for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've always felt, last year we were a little bit better than our record showed. We just didn't finish some games. So, it's been a motivating force, for the players and for the coaches also. It was something that, all of us remind each other about, and it's been a fun off season. This is a fun group of guys. We love coming to practice. We don't want it to end.
For somebody that's kind of been watching from the outside, it seems like your team has had some ups and downs towards the beginning of the season, but did things really kind of seem to come together for that crosstown game? It seemed like everybody was up for that one. You guys go out and kind of make a statement of things, and really it's kind of been on a roll since then.
Yeah, I think that that was a big game. I think that was a big confidence boost for us. To be able to come out and. We had beaten Glenbard North, which was another big win earlier in the season, and come back and in a big stakes game playing Naperville North on a big stage, and for us to come out on top, was a confidence boost, and we've been able to carry that into the playoffs.
You guys have kind of built a little bit of balance here in the offense the last couple of weeks. How much has that been your offensive line? It seems like they're moving some bodies, they're protecting the quarterback, and they have done it for the majority of the season. Yeah,
our offensive line has been very good all year. We felt in the offseason from the summer that was going to be a group we could rely on. We had those. We felt we could go 6 or 7 deep up front. Those guys were big and strong, and we could maybe move some people around. And with Matt, carrying the most of the load, and Colin being a lead blocker, we felt our running game would be solid. It's taken us a little bit of time to get our passing game clicking, but the last 3 or 4 weeks we've been pretty balanced, and I think it's really helped us.
And you talk about Matt Randolph kind of being the main beneficiary at over 1,600 yards this season. As a coach, do you kind of find yourself maybe just watching him stepping back as a fan almost? Because some of these runs he made have really just been outstanding.
Yeah, he's a special player, but it's not just by luck. I mean, he's worked extremely hard to get where he's at, as a lot of our players have. And we see Matt do that every day in practice. He's a guy that likes to break a lot of runs, likes to finish off his runs in practice. So he's used to doing that. But it's a team effort. He gets a lot of the individual glory, and rightfully so. But there's 11 guys out there all working together as a unit.
And, we talk about the passing game. Ian Lewandowski has kind of been able to show off his arm the past couple of weeks once we've gotten into the playoffs. How much has it kind of been nice to see him give you guys a little bit of a different dimension? We've seen him do it with his legs in the past, but the passing game has really opened up.
Yeah, it has. And Ian's a great competitor. Quarterback isn't his natural position. He only started playing that late his sophomore year, and last year he didn't play much quarterback at all. So it was something that he had to grow into, and he's always been a great athlete. Now he's grown into a pretty good quarterback, being able to hurt you with his feet, and he's also now been able to show people he can hurt him with his arm also.
What are some of the things that go into a transition like that? I imagine, it's more than just, knowing the plays, because quarterbacks got to know where everybody's got to be. I imagine there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, it is. It's getting to know the defense, being able to anticipate, being able to slow the game. That's one thing we've talked to Ian about, is being able to slow the game down in your mind, and being able to do that. And once you can do that, it allows you to be able to make some plays, and he's done a great job, especially the last 4 weeks, being able to do that. He's our leader out there. He runs our offense, and, he's what makes our engine go.
You talked about the defense being the strength of your team. These guys really seem to be flying around to the football really all season, have held down some big offensive attacks. What is it that has made them perform so well this year and play at really a high level for 11 weeks now.
Yeah, our coaching staff does a great job preparing them, and these kids really buy into the game plan each week. They buy into the style that we want to play. We want to be an aggressive team. We want to be a fast team. We want to get 11 helmets to the ball every play, and we really are able to do that, quite often. That's one of the strengths of us. We play hard. We play fast on defense. We like to be physical. Our players like to be physical, and our front seven up front, I think they're as good as anybody around, and Zach leads that. Zach gets a lot of the glory. He was a defensive player of the year in our conference, and he can cause a lot of havoc, and we're going to need some big things from him come Friday night.
You talk about Zach Borda and really the rest of that defensive line. Just watching them play, as somebody that enjoys line play, it's fun to watch. These guys just seem to, the motor never stops.
Yeah, they're relentless. They're going to get to the football eventually. They're going to get there. It's just where it's going to be at. And we play about six. We go about 6 deep there too. Also, the coaches rotate in some players, so they're usually pretty fresh, and they do. They're able to get pressure on, which really takes some pressure off of our secondary, allows them to play coverage, and because of that, we've been able to get quite a few interceptions this year.
And for you guys, I imagine for some of these players, playing at Naperville Central, there's a little bit of a legacy there. There's some pressure, especially when you're at this quarterfinal stage of the playoffs. What are you guys kind of doing as a coaching staff to keep these guys even keel going into a big game like this, a stage that this program hasn't been at for 3, 4, 5 years?
This group is very businesslike. We have a set routine from week 1 to week 12. We don't change. We do the same thing every Saturday, every Monday, every Tuesday. We do the same drills. Everything is the same. Our routine is set. So it doesn't necessarily matter who we're playing, the opponent. One of the things that helps us right now is, in our mind, we've played 3 or 4 quarterfinal games already. The DuPage Valley prepares you for that. Our non-conference schedule, playing Wabanzi and Nequa. So our players have played on a big stage. They're prepared to play in a big game. So we're excited for Friday night.
And you touched on it a little bit there, the DuPage Valley Conference kind of showing its strength here in the playoffs. I imagine for somebody that plays week in, week out, saw your quote in the paper earlier today. It seems like something that a lot of these coaches aren't surprised about, that there are a lot of strong programs, that you guys see 7 times out of the year.
Yeah, it's a battle every week, especially, depending on how your schedule falls, you get into that gauntlet and have to, play 4 or 5 really tough games in a row, and they're really quarterfinal, semifinal caliber types of games, and it really does prepare you. Your kids are battle tested coming out of our conference, and you see a lot of different styles. You got to be physical in our conference. You got to be able to run the ball, and you got to be able to defend the run. And I think that the teams from our league that have been able to do that the best this year are still playing.
Definitely. We fast forward to this week, Homewood Flossmoor coming in. Tim Williams, a guy that has been the all-everything guy at times for that offense. What kind of things do you have to do to game plan as we go lead up to this game on Friday night?
Yeah, he's a special player. They got a lot of special players, and we talked to the team on Saturday. It's not just up to our defense to stop them. It comes down to our offense controlling the ball. It comes down to our special teams winning the battle of the field position. We have to be very solid in all 3 phases to slow their offense down. We're not going to just say defense, go get it done. We're going to have the other 2 phases. They got to do their job to help try and slow Homewood Flossmoor down, because they can put up a lot of points in a hurry.
And I imagine you guys hoping that this place is packed on Friday night?
Yeah, it'll be packed. It'll be rocking. We have as good a student body as there is in the state. These students here are great. We love them to death, and they'll be here and they'll be excited.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you letting us come by. The weather had us indoors today, but either way, good to get out to practice, and good luck on Friday night.
Thank you very much.